Our golden retriever is about to give birth. After 63 days in their mother's uterus, these puppies are ready to enter the world. The mother's first instinct is to tear open the sac and lick the pup clean. This stimulates her pup to breathe. The placenta has one last role to play. The mother eats it and ingests a chemical which stimulates the flow of milk from her nipples. The pups are relatively helpless. All are born blind and unable to walk. Our retriever is now the mother of 9 puppies, above average for her breed. Around 7 days after birth, the pup's eyes open for the first time, although they stay blind for a further 3 days. After 2 weeks, their ear canals open, and within another 20 days, their hearing will be far more acute than our own. At 18 days, they'll bark for the first time, and after 28 days, they're walking and running. The females of the litter will be capable of breeding after 6 months, and the males will be sexually active by the same time. In just 63 days, our golden retriever fashioned 9 precisely tuned hunters, intelligent, social, with acute smell and hearing, even with night vision. In that same time frame, the Asian elephant embryo has grown to 5 millimeters in length, but it still has a further 20 months to go. At this stage, her embryo still resembles a human embryo. In fact, all early-stage mammal embryos look remarkably similar. That's because mammals share a common evolutionary heritage. Every mammal on Earth evolved from one shared ancestor, a small shrew-like creature which walked on Earth about 200 million years ago. At around 11 weeks, the limb buds and head of the elephant, just like those of a 6-week-old human embryo, are readily distinguishable. They both share the same curled-up fetal position attached to the wall of the uterus. By 14 weeks, the heart is beating. The fetus can move independently. It's now 18 millimeters in size and weighs 1.5 grams. Right now, the heart is minute. Yet by the time this tiny fetus reaches adulthood, its heart will weigh more than 20 kilos. The same weight as a fully grown Dalmatian. An adult elephant's heart beats just 28 times a minute, compared to 70 times for humans and 500 times for mice. With every beat, this heart will have to help pump over 450 litres of blood around its body. And it may have to do so for 60 years. Its brain looks like a bubble of water. There's a very thin tissue layer around the skull. Eventually, it'll grow to weigh 4.5 kilos, about 10 pounds. And it will have the same memory capacity as a human brain. As with us, it's a powerful survival tool. In a harsh and uncompromising environment, it helps the elephant store information on where the best food, water and shelter can be found. Traces laid down in the memory can help an elephant find a watering hole it has not visited in 20 years. It's 4 months since conception. The fetus shows its first outward signs of the creature it will one day become. The trunk is starting to show, and the fetus looks plumper towards the rear. When fully developed, the trunk will contain an astonishing 40,000 individual muscles. We humans have only 650 muscles in our entire body. It's so powerful, it will be able to uproot trees. Yet the elephant's trunk is not just an emblem of power and dexterity. It also offers a clue to its owner's unusual evolutionary past. Structures that form early in fetal development tend to be more ancient than those that develop later. The trunk is an early starter. This leads some biologists to suggest that the forerunners of modern elephants may not have lived on land. Instead, they may have evolved from aquatic mammals, such as the sea cow or dugong, which still swim in the oceans today. The trunk could have been used like a snorkel. This seems all the more plausible when we look at how elephants swim. Their necks are too short for them to breathe through the mouth. So they push their trunks above the waterline and use them to inhale. And at this 4-month stage, something else happens to the fetus. Something strange that also backs up the theory of an aquatic elephant past. Zoologists have discovered that the fetus grows structures called nephrostomes. These funnel-shaped ducts, deep within the developing kidney, are found in freshwater fish and frogs. They act in advance of the kidneys as primitive waste filters, but they've never been observed in any other mammal. The elephant fetus offers remarkable clues to its evolutionary heritage. But it's not the only animal to undergo such significant changes. There's another mammal that shares an equally fascinating ancestral past. The dolphin. Early dolphin embryos like this one are revealing an astonishing fact. The dolphin, a mammal seemingly so perfectly adapted to life in the water, may once have had ancestors who walked on the land. Dolphins share one significant trait with humans. They, like us, don't just have sex to breed. They also seem to do it for fun. Consequently, unlike many other mammals, they are capable of having sex every day of the year. Dolphins have long sessions of foreplay, but because the ocean is a dangerous place, the actual act of copulation is as short as possible and usually lasts just seconds. And the ocean is a pretty unforgiving environment if you're trying to breed. Seawater kills sperm. To protect it, the female locks onto the male's penis to create a watertight fit. On ejaculation, the dolphin can produce huge volumes of sperm, nearly 80 milliliters. A large part of the ejaculate is low in sperm. This may be to flush out any from a previous dolphin. But when it arrives, the sperm is highly potent. The semen contains about 300 million sperm per milliliter. That's 15 times more concentrated than that of a healthy human. As the sperm travel towards the female's egg, they swim through a passage called the pseudocervix. It's surrounded by a ring of muscles that contract after the sperm have passed through. It's an effective barrier between any seawater and the dolphin's true cervix. From the time the egg is fertilized, it takes a year to turn this minute clump of cells into a dolphin calf. 3 weeks into that process, and the embryo is only about 1.5 centimeters long, but the heart is already beating. These are the first of 1 billion beats, stretched over the dolphin's 30-year life cycle. After 24 days, strange things start happening. Although the flippers begin to grow, at the base of the embryo, leg-like limb buds begin to appear. These tiny limbs will emerge and then retract and vanish completely over the next 2 weeks. But why do they grow in the first place? Scientists believe this is evidence of the dolphin's land ancestry. They've narrowed the dolphin's ancestor down to a small dog-like creature called Pachycetus, closely related to hippos and cows. This animal is thought to have roamed the seashore or hunted in rivers over 50 million years ago. The key feature linking this creature to today's cetaceans, a group which includes dolphins, is a structure in the ear. An adaptation letting them hear better in the water than other mammals. Over millions of years, these dolphin ancestors adapted to a new ocean environment, one where they no longer had any use for legs. We can see this play out as we follow our dolphin embryo's early development. The mother has been pregnant for a month. Inside her uterus, the embryo is transforming itself. At first, what look like nostrils appear, but then they change position, moving up to the top of the head, where they'll eventually become the blowhole. And from 8 weeks, in 3-dimensional real time, known as 4D, we can see what's now the fetus bouncing around. It looks like it's swimming in the amniotic fluid, practicing in its own confined but very private pool. We see gulping actions as it swallows. It's just over 2 months since conception. The fetus is beginning to take on the dolphin's characteristic shape. The flippers are forming, along with the tail or fluke. When fully developed, this tail is not just for propulsion, it's also a weapon. The shark is often thought of as the ultimate killing machine, but the dolphin too is one of the ocean's deadliest predators. It strikes its prey with a violent thrust of its tail, sending the fish over 9 meters out of the water to stun or kill it. The muscles developing in the tail will be so powerful they'll allow the fetus to stand upright on its tail fin and propel itself as if walking on water. The nostrils have now reached the top of the head and are joining together. Eventually, a flap of muscle will form a watertight seal. When the dolphin breathes, it opens this flap and exhales powerfully. And when fully grown, this dolphin will only need to breathe 2 to 3 times a minute. Humans are involuntary breathers, meaning we continue to breathe even if we're unconscious. But dolphins are voluntary breathers. They must make a conscious decision to inhale air. Unconscious dolphins die from asphyxiation. This means that dolphins never truly sleep in their whole lives. Their brain must always be active enough to initiate breathing. It's 11 weeks since conception. The flippers or pectoral fins have now formed. The bones within the fin look strikingly like the bony fingers of the human hand, more evidence of the dolphin's land ancestry. The kidneys are also forming. Incredibly, although this fetus will spend all its life in the water, it's more like a desert animal, with no direct source of drinkable water. The ocean is too salty. The fetus will have to get its water from the fish it eats. We're now almost a quarter of the way into our dolphin's pregnancy. And by this time, the genitals are clearly visible. When this male dolphin is fully developed, the penis will be enclosed within the body to maintain a streamlined shape. This will eventually allow it to swim at close to 35 kilometers an hour. But the dolphin's streamlined shape creates one serious potential problem. The testicles are also inside the body, and sperm cannot survive at body temperature. It's too hot. As a result, nature has added a special feature. A network of blood vessels spreads out from the testicles towards the dorsal fin and fluke, drawing heat away from the genitals. And then the cooled blood returns, bathing the testicles. Inside the fetus's head, a new structure is growing, a fatty body called the melon. The melon sits in front of the skull and blowhole and comprises much of an adult animal's forehead. It magnifies and directs the clicking sounds which the dolphin sends out through the water. When those projected sound waves hit an object, they bounce back, like the sonar system on a modern submarine. It's called echolocation, and it's the mechanism through which the fetus will one day be able to work out distance, speed, direction, size, shape, and even the density of an object. It's so sensitive that when this fetus grows to adulthood, it will be able to detect an object the size of a ping-pong ball 100 meters away. Over the next 8 weeks, the fetus will change color to gray. Hairs will appear on the end of the jaw, and as the mother's uterus becomes more cramped, the fetus folds around to fit into the limited space. Our dolphin's fetus is now about to develop some of its most sophisticated adaptations for its seafaring life. Its immensely powerful propulsion unit, and a system that will let it safely dive down to an incredible 900 meters into the ocean depths in one breath. We're nearly halfway through our dolphin's pregnancy, and her fetus now has a recognizable tail or fluke. It's made up purely of fibrous connective tissue, totally lacking any muscle or bone. These 4D pictures show the fluke's movement. Unlike fish, whose tails move sideways, the dolphin's fluke moves up and down. It's his main source of propulsion. And this dolphin is developing the ability to dive to great depths for prolonged periods. One adaptation that helps him to achieve this is the nature of his ribs. In several places they've evolved hinges, allowing them to collapse as water pressure increases. The dolphin will also be able to lower his heart rate to just 12 beats per minute and direct most of the reduced blood to the vital areas of the heart and brain. This means he can survive underwater for up to 7 minutes on just one lungful of air. He'll be able to dive to as low as 150 meters with ease, but can reach depths of 900 meters. But this fetus won't just dive, he will also fly. Using his powerful tail, he will launch himself out of the water in spectacular jumps, rising as high as nearly 5 meters in the air. One reason for this may be to remove parasites that stick to the skin. Some marine biologists also believe this behavior is a hunting strategy, herding fish towards other dolphins. Or they may just do it for fun. The fetus has reached 7 months. The eyes are now moving, opening and closing. Their position gives the dolphin a 320-degree field of vision. The eyes secrete oily, jelly-like mucus that lubricates them and washes away debris. We need to wear a mask underwater to prevent distortion of images, but the dolphin fetus will be able to change the shape of its lens to see both in and out of the water. Muscles inside the lens can contract, making it more rounded for focusing in water, or they relax, making it more flattened for seeing clearly in air. This ability to see out of water means the fetus will be able to adopt more than one hunting strategy. It's called strand feeding. The dolphin forces fish onto dry land and then strands itself, using its excellent eyesight to locate and devour prey. It's now close to 9 months since conception. There's no more room in the mother's uterus, so the fetus curls around inside the uterine wall. Once born, the dolphin will never adopt this position again, but for the first month of its life, the folds will remain visible. He's grown hairs on the beak, but they serve no purpose and will fall out soon after birth. It's thought that these whisker-like hairs could be further evidence that the dolphin's ancestors once walked on land. The organs are now all fully formed, and the skin is recognizably the color of an adult dolphin. It's one of nature's wonders that the outermost layer of his skin will be replaced every 2 hours, keeping the surface smooth and free of external attachments. We're now nearly 10 months into the pregnancy. Inside our dolphin's uterus, the fetus has grown tiny holes behind the eyes. They don't look much like ears, but that's what they are. Even though he lacks external ears, this fetus is developing both middle and inner ears within his brain. The auditory systems are already much more complex than in humans. Compared to us, the auditory nerve has double the amount of nerve fibers. It's a year since conception, and the baby dolphin is ready to be born. He's just under a metre in length and weighs about 14 kilos, just over 30 pounds. As he moves down the birth canal, his final fetal adaptation is revealed. His fins are folded to ease delivery. He emerges tail first. As the head appears, the umbilical cord snaps. In contrast with many other mammals, he's born with his eyes open, his senses alert, and with enough muscular coordination to follow his mother immediately. At first, he will suckle in short bursts of just a few seconds, every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day. As he learns to regulate his breathing, he'll feed for fewer but longer sessions. His mother's milk makes the baby dolphin grow fast. It contains more than 8 times as much fat as human milk. He will be nursed for at least 2 years. He will be sexually active by the age of 10, and in the wild will live for 20 to 30 years. A brilliant collaborator and a skillful predator, perfectly adapted for a lifetime at sea. Back on dry land, our Asian elephant has reached the 4-month stage of her pregnancy. In all that time, the fetus within has only grown to just under 6 centimeters. It's still so small it could fit in the palm of a human hand. A long, long way to go. The skin is smooth and unwrinkled. The ribs can be seen through the thin layers of skin, and the fetus is pinkish in color. This color comes from the blood flowing through the fetus. An elephant's arteries are so large that they need support from ridges of elastic fibers or muscle cells. The fetus is also growing veins with extra support from thicker walls than those of other mammals. Some of these blood vessels will eventually extend to 10 meters in length. Deep within, the digestive system has started to develop. It's going to be kept very busy throughout the elephant's life, as this animal will consume vast quantities of food. But the elephant has only a simple stomach, a system that will never be as efficient as that of many other animals. So when this fetus is born, it will only be able to digest 40% of what it eats. That means it'll have to spend around 16 hours of every day just eating. In the course of one day, an adult elephant can consume up to 150 kilos of vegetation. That's the equivalent of you or me eating 1,000 apples in a day. It's 18 weeks since our elephant conceived her baby. Much like a human baby, the fetus is now kicking inside its mother. The legs move in a slow running motion. The head moves from side to side and up and down. As with all fetal growth, this is vital if the muscles are to develop properly. The feet are growing pads of fibrous fatty tissue, which will eventually help spread the enormous weight of the adult elephant. They act as a shock absorber, helping their owner to move quietly, despite its massive size. Even when an elephant treads on a stick, the sound is muffled by the feet. When the fetus is fully grown, it will be able to walk up to 95 kilometers in a day, and it'll even run at nearly 40 kilometers an hour. New research suggests that its feet can also act as extra ears. It's thought that elephants pick up vibrations in the ground, alerting them to a variety of sounds such as distant thunder, animal stampedes, or another elephant's calls. The foot pads sense vibrations which carry through the bones to the elephant's ears. All these elaborate sensors in the feet will one day allow the fetus to pick up sounds from nearly 16 kilometers away. We're nearly 5 months into the pregnancy. Her growing fetus is developing an unusual set of lungs, needed because elephants breathe through their trunks when crossing rivers and lakes. The tip of the trunk stays just above the water, like a long snorkel, feeding down air at normal atmospheric pressure. But blood in the veins and arteries around the lungs is at the far higher pressure of the surrounding deep water. And that pressure differential strains the walls of the blood vessels. In humans and most other mammals, that strain would make our delicate blood vessels around the lungs rupture or leak. But in elephants, evolution has created stronger blood vessels and encased them in dense connective tissue, allowing the animal to snorkel at depths that could be fatal to us. The trunk now has a finger-like projection at its tip. It's 100 times more sensitive than a human fingertip. It's also so dexterous, it'll allow the adult elephant to pick up an object as small as a peanut. At the moment, the head looks too big for the body. It's almost half its total length. Nevertheless, it's much smaller than it will one day become. The elephant is a highly intelligent animal with complex social relationships and sophisticated communications. Although proportionally smaller than our brain, the elephant, in common with the great apes and cetaceans such as the dolphin, has a large brain relative to its body size. It's located in the back of the skull, away from the forehead. That huge forehead holds an incredibly light sponge-like bone which compensates for the great weight of the trunk. Over the next 7 months, this fetus will put on 12 kilos in weight. Its brain will continue to develop, and it will start flexing its trunk. It's now 1 year since conception, but our Asian elephant is only just past the halfway mark. The fetus she's carrying now measures about 45 centimeters and weighs over 12 kilos. It's kicking strongly against the wall of the uterus. The baby elephant can now use its trunk, curling it right up into its mouth and over its head. At the moment, the trunk appears long compared to the legs and the rest of the body. It's thought that as it's so complex, it needs to start developing sooner. Eventually, it will weigh the same as 2 adult men. It'll be used to signal, trumpet, eat, bathe, dust itself, and defend itself. And when the fetus is fully grown, it'll use its trunk to drink about 200 litres of water every day, which, if necessary, it can down in less than 5 minutes. It's 13 months since conception. This baby elephant is male. But although the penis is visible, there's no sign of the testicles. Unusually for a mammal, they're inside the body, where they're kept cool by the elephant's relatively low body temperature. For many years, no one knew why the elephant should have internal testicles. But recent research suggests it may be more evidence of the elephant's aquatic past, because sea mammals, like the dolphin, also store their testes inside their bodies to retain their streamlined shape. When this baby elephant reaches maturity, his testicles will weigh a total of 6 kilos. They will produce 5 billion sperm per day. Even within the womb, his testicles are already producing testosterone, the male sex hormone, so much that it can be measured in the blood of his mother. And this fetus is already producing more than 100 times the levels of a healthy human male. This will increase his muscle strength and decrease his sensitivity to pain. He'll be able to fight harder in his search for a mate. And in the wild, only the strongest bull elephant will mate with the females. The fetus has been inside its mother's uterus for 14 months. He can now swallow. And as he does so, he takes in fluid from the amniotic sac, helping to keep the throat from closing up. The eyelashes, tail hair, and hair around the mouth are in place. Just like the domestic dog, these sensory hairs grow first. The baby elephant's characteristic ears are now clearly visible. They're just 8 centimeters across, but will grow to over ½ a meter when he's a fully mature adult. This baby will need such large ears to regulate his temperature, because like the dog, he has few sweat glands. Blood from various parts of the body is transported to the ears, where it's cooled by their fanning motion. This process can reduce the temperature of the blood by about 5 degrees Celsius. The cooled blood then circulates, lowering the temperature of the rest of the body. Although large compared to most other animals, the Asian elephant's ears are much smaller than those of their African cousin. The African lives in the open savanna with little shade. It needs bigger ears to help lose more heat. But this Asian elephant fetus will live in a jungle environment where there is plenty of shade. And having smaller ears means it is less likely to damage them in the jungle's dense foliage. It's 19 months since conception, and the baby elephant weighs 65 kilos. He is now fully developed. He has just one job left to do for the next 3 months: grow bigger. But these final 3 months in the womb are vital for his future survival. If he were born right now, he wouldn't be large enough to reach his mother's milk. A premature birth could mean starvation and even death. Our Asian elephant has just 3 months left of her 22-month pregnancy. Her uterus is getting more and more cramped as her baby puts on ½ kilo in weight every day. But unlike humans, this baby will continue growing throughout his life. He's now covered in bristly hair, which will stay on him until he's mature. It helps protect him from strong sunlight and mosquito bites. And his skin, as sensitive as ours, will be able to feel a fly landing on his back. Along with the ears, this skin also plays a vital role in keeping him cool. Unlike the skin of most mammals, it's wrinkly and loose-fitting. When he sprays water on his back, some of it is trapped in his skin's folds and crevices. Then, as it evaporates, it lowers his body temperature. He can lose as much as 75% of his body heat this way. It's now 22 months since conception, and the baby elephant is ready to face the outside world. Most elephants are born feet first, another possible hangover from their aquatic past. Sea mammals, such as the dolphin, are all born tail first. His toenails have already grown a soft covering to protect the mother as he passes through the birth canal. Although he is ready for birth, his brain is underdeveloped, much like we humans. It will be 12 years before it's fully mature. Two to 5 days before birth, the mother's progesterone levels drop. That progesterone has maintained the pregnancy throughout the 22 months. Now the baby turns around and starts to pass through the cervix. From outside, we can see him moving. The umbilical cord is short, about 1 meter long, to help prevent the elephant strangling itself during the gestation period. But as a result, as he travels down the birth canal, the cord snaps and retracts back into the uterus. But even with his lifeline broken, the baby elephant can survive for up to 20 minutes inside his mother's uterus. His mother has been in labor for just over an hour. After nearly 2 years inside the safety of his mother's uterus, the baby elephant finally enters the world to take his first breath. He's grown from a tiny clump of cells to a newborn weighing 120 kilos. Just 30 minutes after birth, he takes his first steps. As yet, he has no control of his trunk. It will be a year before he can use it effectively. And his eyes are not yet functioning properly. In the wild, most elephants are born at night, between 2 and 4 a.m. This gives them a little time for their eyes to adjust before the sun rises. Until he can see properly, he must rely on his mother to guide him to her milk. This newborn will consume 15 litres of milk a day. He will suckle for the next 5 years of his life and will remain with his mother until he's about 13. When he's fully grown, he'll weigh close to 5 tons, the same weight as nearly 60 fully grown men. After nearly 2 years gestation, his mother will not ovulate again for another 2. She will have invested 4 years of her life in a single sperm. We've seen a tiny blob, no bigger than a grain of sand, grow into an elephant. In 22 months, it's grown an incredibly versatile trunk, allowing it to pull up trees, swim across rivers, and pick up objects as small as a peanut. It's developed pads on its feet that sense vibrations in the ground up to 16 kilometers away. It's been perfectly developed in the womb for the moment of its birth. And yet it now faces new challenges and dangers in our modern world: deforestation, encroachment by mankind upon its natural habitat, and the deadly threat of poachers. But if it's lucky, this elephant will live up to 60 years in the wild. For the dolphin, too, there are many dangers ahead. For the first few months of its life, it is easy prey for sharks, even though its development has adapted it as well as possible, with a tail that can propel it 4 times faster than the fastest human swimmer. For the dog, there are no such dangers. It's found a safe evolutionary niche in a symbiotic relationship with humans. We've watched 9 golden retriever pups grow inside their mother's womb in just 63 days. In that time, each one of them has developed an amazingly powerful sense of smell. They've grown whiskers as sensitive as our fingertips, and ears that can pick up sounds far beyond the range of human hearing. New scientific research and the latest scanning technology has allowed us for the first time to see into the world of fetal development in the animal kingdom, unlocking the mysteries of one of nature's most remarkable journeys, the journey to birth.